Good day and welcome to Earl's Vehicles. I'm Magnus, and in this video we're looking at the Hyundai IONIQ 5. So, starting up in the lineup, and yes, I am holding an iPad because there's a lot of information about these cars. This is the Ultimate. This is the rear-wheel drive version. They do an all-wheel drive version. This one also has the Tech Pack and the Eco Pack, which I'll delve into a little bit more later. Moving on, this is the Namsan. This is a step up from the Ultimate. This one has a panoramic glass roof, the Vision roof, so an electric sunshade as well, digital side mirrors, and a few more bells and whistles on the interior. And finally, the N, probably one of the most reviewed EVs on the market. This is the performance version. It's completely different. You can see just by the styling alone from the front, it's very different to the regular IONIQ 5. So in terms of the figures, the range, actually very similar with these. About 240 miles of real-world range with the N, 235 with the all-wheel drive Namsan, and about 230 with the rear-wheel drive Ultimate. But the battery sizes are different. So the N has the latest 84 kilowatt-hour battery pack, the Namsan 77 kilowatt-hours, and the Ultimate is 73 kilowatt-hours. So despite having a bigger battery, the N doesn't necessarily go much further, probably because it's quite the performance car. It's got a bigger motor, it's got performance components, and so on and so on. In terms of actual performance figures, the N will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.4 seconds. That's 641 horsepower, so it's quite the rocket. And if you've seen any videos on it, if you've seen our videos on it, you'll know what it's like to drive. The Namsan, this is on a very similar platform to the Ultimate, bar a slightly bigger battery, but because it's all-wheel drive, it does 0 to 62 in 5.1 seconds with 321 horsepower. So again, not a slow car by any means. Finally, the Ultimate, the rear-wheel drive. You can get it in all-wheel drive, same as the Namsan. This one will do 0 to 62 in 7.4 with around 215 horsepower. So again, because it's electric, it still feels pretty quick off the mark. But in theory, the ranges are about the same. But because it's got a smaller battery, roughly 10 kilowatt hours smaller than the N, you tend to get, the pennies will last a bit longer when you're charging it. You know, you'll get more for your money driving a rear-wheel drive Ultimate. Let's talk a bit about prices. The N starts from £65,000 brand new. This particular one is about 12 months old, around 12,000 miles, average miles for its age, and it's currently worth about £50,000 to £51,000. So you're looking at a drop of about £14,000 to £15,000, which for a new electric car isn't actually too bad. Namsan, when it was new, was about £54,000. This particular one, which is on our forecourt at the time of filming this, is currently worth about £29,400, and it's 18 months old and it's done about 19,000 miles. So again, sort of average mileage, about 1,000 miles a month. What's interesting is this one's dropped nearly £25,000 in value, and that's quite a drop compared to the N, sort of losing 14,000, 15,000. This one's an extra £10,000 more than that, which is quite interesting when we compare it to the Ultimate. So the Ultimate, this rear-wheel drive version would have started around £48,000 when it was new. As you can see, this one is about 3 years old. It's done 24,000 miles, so lower mileage compared to the other two IONIQs that we've looked at. And interestingly enough, on our forecourt today, it's worth about £23,000. So from when it was new to now, in that age and mileage, it's lost just over £25,000 of its value. It's interesting to compare this to the Namsan because the Namsan has also lost a similar amount of value, but obviously in a much shorter space of time. And so when you're looking at a used electric car, is that sort of 18 months the sweet spot for depreciation? Because really, this hasn't actually depreciated much more than the Namsan in double the amount of time. So there are a lot of similarities between the IONIQ 5s, such as they all charge from about 10% to 80% in 17 minutes on a rapid charger. They also will have the same size boot. However, underneath the bonnets, they have different sized front boots, or fruits, or front trunks. So with the rear wheel drive, you've got a much deeper fruit because there's no front motor. So you've got a little bit more storage in there. On the all-wheel drive version, such as this Namsan, you can see the capacity of the front boot, the fruit, has been greatly eaten into. There really isn't a vast amount of space here. You can maybe get a cable in, but honestly, not a lot. With the N, however, if you thought that was bad, the N doesn't have one. It's nothing, it's just the plastic cover. So in theory, practicality wise, you can't actually get anything. You can get a lot less in the end compared to the other two. If you really want the sweet spot, it's a rear wheel drive Ultima. So in terms of the interior, we're in the Ultimate at the minute, and this has the optional Moonlight Grey, well, it's more a bit of a cream slash beige interior. It's nice and light, a nice light headliner. You've got lots of that leather all around. It's very luxurious. There's nice little bits like the ambient lighting is in the doors down here, also around the speakers. The center console is incredibly vast. It's ginormous. It's incredibly deep. Even under the armrest, you've got plenty of storage. With the Ultimates, you also get a sliding center console, so you can slide it all the way back if you want your cups to be a little bit closer and more floor space at the front, or you can slide it right the way forward. It gives people in the back a bit of extra legroom if someone sat in the middle seat. From the driver's point of view, lovely leather steering wheel. You've got the paddles here, which will control the regenerative braking. You've got a drive mode select button as well, from Eco to Normal and Sport. The gear selector is just down to the right as well. Infotainment's nice and easy to use. It's not too hard to reach. It's pretty responsive. You've also got all your climate controls down here on this little strip. You've got wireless charging, USBs, 1, 2, 3 USBs, and a 12-volt socket as well. Heads-up display, the Bose sound system. All in all, it's a lovely space to be. The seats are incredibly comfortable. This one is optioned with the tech pack, which adds these relaxation seats. So if I hold this button on the side of my seat, the whole seat will start to recline, like so. And even a bit of leg rest comes up underneath your thighs. So if you're charging, you can just have a nice relax and then push the button in the opposite direction to bring the seat back up. That can be also paired with, under the media section of the screen, under here, you've also got sounds of nature. So when you bring that up, it will effectively play a forest, what it's like on a ship, outer space communication, lots of others such as rainy day. So when you're charging, you can just relax and unwind. So we're now inside the Namsan, and this has the standard black leather interior. Again, very functional, very practical, and again, the same sort of quality that you'd get in the Ultimates or with the Moonlight Grey interior. At face value, there's not a lot different from being in here to the Ultimates, in the sense that you still get the sliding center console, the dashboard is still very much the same, you get all the same features as an Ultimate with the Tech and Eco pack, but you also get a few extra bells and whistles. So you get digital side mirrors, so these sort of iPads on the door cards are your wing mirrors effectively, and when you do indicate, it does show some little lines as well, so you've got a rough idea of how close the car in the lane next to you is. So that's quite nice in the sense they do give you a bit of perspective still. They can feel a little bit weird at the start, but once you're used to them, they're fantastic. The Namsan also has the Vision roof as standard. So this is a full-length glass panoramic roof with an electric sunshade as well. So you can have it closed like that, or obviously open. In terms of other features, the entire... so you get the same relaxation seats, the ones that recline you back like we've just seen in the Ultimate, but you also get a fully electric back row. So you can actually use, there's a panel here which you'll see in this shot, there's a panel here which allows you to control the rear and also this front seat as well. So I can move the entire front seat just off a button to the side. So that's great if you wanted to move people around, have a little bit of space. If someone's getting to the back, you could move this passenger seat forward as well. Now we'll have a quick look in the back. So in the back, this is where the Vision roof really makes a difference. Lovely view. You've also got these back seats, as I mentioned, are electric, so I can move this one forward and backwards, which is nice if you need a bit of extra boot space or a little bit of extra leg room if you're sat in the back. It's in my seating position at the minute for the driver's seat, and I'm about 6-ish foot, slightly over. I've still got plenty of leg space, but you can also recline the seat back, so you get a nice recline position. That's slightly dependent on obviously if you have the parcel shelf in or not, and you can change the parcel shelf to have it in 2 different positions. So if I had the parcel shelf slightly further forward, the seat will only recline so much. I've got it in the furthest back position, so it goes back even further. The panel that I mentioned on the passenger seat can also be used in the back to move the front seat forward, but also it can move these seats forward as well. Not that I know why you need to do that in the back especially, but you can. With the Namsan, you also get these blinds in the back as well, which just lift up and hook on. So you've got these nice blinds that just sit quite smartly in the door. Apart from that, in the back, it's very similar to the Ultimate. There's not really much of a difference. You've got access to heated seats, 2 stages, and everything else is pretty much the same. So we're now in the N, and as you can see, this is much different to the Namsan and the Ultimate. You don't have that sliding center console. You have this big fixed console with the wireless charging pad up here, USB-C ports in these, not just regular USBs. Still got the 12 volt, a couple of easy access buttons. Still quite deep. There's 2 sort of cup holders that slide round here, as well as a decent amount of space in the armrest, which can be slid forward and backwards as well. You've also got these bucket seats, so no leather in the N. It's this sort of Alcantara and leather bucket seats, which have an illuminated N logo as well in the dark. The N only comes in the one color. It's black, and they don't do a lighter interior or anything like that. It is just this. With the N, you also have a completely different dashboard. So this is on the later software, being a newer model. As you can see, it's all black along here, whereas in the Namsan and the Ultimate, no matter what interior you go for, it's always got a white bezel to it. This is black to give it that sportier look. Apart from that, this section down here, still very much the same. Again, gone away with the sort of the satin silver buttons. It's now the satin grey buttons. Again, sportier feel. And of course, the steering wheel is completely different, much more performance focused. These flappy paddles can be used to adjust the regenerative braking like in the Namsan and the Ultimate, but also because of the N E-shift mode, you can use it to effectively change gears like you would do in a petrol-powered performance car. Apart from that, your drive stalk's still down to the right of the steering wheel. You've still got your same indicator and wiper and light stalk as well. You've got heads-up display. With the N, you do also get a camera for the rear view mirror as well, which you can have between either just a regular mirror or actual camera. So if your boot's fully loaded, you can still see out the back, and all you do is just flip it at the bottom to change that between mirror and camera. Other things, you've got this one, it has the with the N, the glass roof, the vision roof is optional, so it's about £1,250 as an option. Ours has it. So again, same sort of thing. You do get the electric shade that comes across like so. With the N, the whole headliner, including the shade for the vision roof, is black, again, to give it that sportier feel. So in the back of the N, it's very similar to the other two. Obviously, no leather. You get a little bit of leather in the middle here, but it's still maintaining that sort of performance feel with the sort of Alcantara suede and leather as well. You've got the blinds that you have like in the Namsan. So these little blinds that come up like so, which is very smart. Again, all of that sort of satin chrome, satin silver trim is replaced with a satin sort of gunmetal grey to give it that sporty feel to it. You've got access to USB-Cs in the back as opposed to the USB-As that you get in the Ultimate and the Namsan. The seats do still move, so you can slide them forwards and backwards. They are manual. Probably more of a weight-saving thing, given this car does already weigh about 2.2 tons. And there is a manual recline, so you can have it upright or further back as well. One thing I haven't touched on in either of these three IONIQ 5s is the fact that underneath the middle seats, which you'll see in this shot, there is a 3-pin socket, so you can actually plug in devices and use them in the car. So you could charge a laptop, you could charge an iPad if you've got little ones in the back, with some entertainment. It doesn't just stop there though. You could run an espresso machine, an air fryer. You can do all of that from inside the car as well as outside with vehicle to load. So I've mentioned vehicle to load, or V2L, a few times now, and you might be wondering what that is. Well, the Hyundai IONIQ 5, at least the majority in the three that we have on display today, have that. So basically what that means is I can have a coffee just from the car itself. So I've got an espresso machine here, plugged in with an extension lead because the cable on this is very short, which actually goes into an adapter into the charge port. So even if I didn't have the car open, I could power something. If you're a mobile gardener, you could use an electric lawnmower, for example. If you're out camping, you can plug in whatever. As you can see, my coffee's just busy making its way now, and that's purely the car powering it. There's nothing else. I haven't run an extension lead out all the way from the building to here just to show this. It is actually doing it off the car. As you can see, it even shows on the dashboard the power it's using. But not just that. Whilst my coffee's getting ready, in the inside of the car, there is that 3-pin socket just underneath the middle seat that I mentioned. So I'm charging up, you can see by the little red lights on there, if you can see that. There you go, little red light that I'm actually charging up a battery from the inside of the car. So if you're a carpenter, a plumber, you could have one of these, charge up your batteries as you're going along. Even if you're stationary, just have them charging up. Just like that, the coffee's ready. So one of the things we mentioned about on the Ultimate is the optional packs, the Tech and the Eco pack, something that's standard on the Namsan and the N. The Tech pack ultimately adds a heat pump, so that basically efficiently heats the cabin in the winter, therefore using less charge from the battery, so your winter range is better. The Tech pack adds the memory seats, the relaxation seats, the way they recline, like we saw earlier, but they also add a effectively remote park assist. So what you can do is you can start the car off with the key fob, and this works for all three, and you can hold the button, give it a second, and then it will start moving, like so. So good if you're in and out of a tight space, if you want to take your car for a walk, anything like that. And you can also move it backwards. So if I decide, oh, actually that space is a bit tight, I'll stand here and the car will just back itself in. I let go of the button and it stops. So we're taking out the IONIQ 5 Ultimate rear-wheel drive for a bit of a spin and see how it is. Now this rides on 20-inch alloy wheels, all the Ultimates do. So you'd expect a slightly firmer ride with the bigger wheels, but in all honesty, it's a very comfortable ride. It is very smooth, very enjoyable. The seats are nice and comfortable. You've got a lovely sort of high ride position as well, so you can really see the road ahead. Just sit up here for a second. Steering wheel's a nice size, nice and easy to get to the stalks. It's overall a very well designed car and quite unique. You don't see many cars that look like this on the road. Of course, with the Hyundai lineup, the IONIQ 6, the newly released IONIQ 9, they all sort of share that similar sort of retro futuristic styling in the sense of the pixel lights. You know, they're all very unique cars, and of course Kia are taking design cues from that as well. Again, this sits on the same platform as the Kia EV6, so infotainment is very much the same between the two. Battery size very much the same as well. The EV6 looks a little bit sportier, probably more of an estate than an SUV like this, but overall they're very, very similar cars to drive. Likewise, EV6 rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, you get the choice. Same with these, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Now they do say that rear-wheel drive is better for range. You'll see a lot of EVs on the market now with rear-wheel drive versions, Polestar, Tesla. They tend to say that that's better for the range, and because it's electric, you still get quite a bit of power. Yes, you'll always get more with all-wheel drive, but it's by no means slow. And it's nice to have that, not just necessarily for fun, but more for if you need to quickly nip out and change lanes, or nip out of a junction, swerve out of the way, you know you've got that little bit of power there if you need it. So we're coming up to our bypass now, and we're doing just over 30 miles an hour, bob along, and then when it gets to 60, put the foot down, and it does pick up pretty well. By no means quick as some of the other EVs, but more punch than you'd expect for a car of its size and weight. Obviously you've got the drive mode, so you can change it to sport, gives you a little bit more power, and eco will start to limit that power, but running it in normal is probably enough. Obviously you've got the benefit of the heads-up display, so you can see the speed in front of you, you don't need to look down at the dash all the time. It even shows you the speed limit as well, so I can see it's 60 along here and we're doing 54. The Ultimate also has effectively lane keep, so the car is effectively steering itself. So it's doing 50, I'm controlling the acceleration at the minute, but the car is steering within the lanes. And also I can then set the adaptive cruise as well, if I press the right button, to do 55, like so. And the car will now pick up to 55, so I'm not touching the accelerator at the minute, it's picking up by itself. And because it's adaptive cruise, it will also slow for the car in front. This is obviously not something you'd necessarily use around a town or a city, but whilst on motorways, it can make it a lot more enjoyable. The car does a lot of the thinking for you, so you don't have to do a 2-3 hour drive, get to the end of it and go, God, I feel exhausted. So we're going to a roundabout now. I will cancel it just because I like to have a bit more control. Certain makes and models will slow down for roundabouts, but I'd rather have the control myself. But that's a very nice feature to have, optional on a lot of cars. If you've seen our IONIQ 5N versus the Porsche Taycan Turbo Cross Turismo, you'll know that adaptive cruise control is optional. And if you want if you'd like your Taycan to do a bit of autonomy as well with the steering, you'd have to pay for Porsche InnoDrive, which again is not the cheapest of options. But on these Ultimates, the Namsan and the N, it is all standard. So we're going back through our little village now. They've recently resurfaced all the roads, so it's quite nice and smooth, but we will find the odd bump and just have a feel what it's like on the suspension. Obviously, because it is a relatively big car, you've got to be a little bit more mindful of its size. Not that it feels big from when you're sat inside of it. Yes, you're sat high up, but it doesn't feel overly wide. But it's lovely and manoeuvrable. The steering's nice and light. Bob around, you still get a lot of looks because it looks like no other car on the road. Because it's very, very quiet. Got the aircon on, it's still very quiet. I know you won't hear a lot with the microphone, but it is a very quiet ride. There's not a lot of wind noise at the higher speeds. There's no rattles, anything like that. It's a very solid build. And of course, this car is a few years old with just under 24,000 miles, and it's £23,000 at the time of filming this, and that's phenomenal value for money. You've got bags of space in the back, loads of tech as standard. Again, optioned with the tech pack and the eco pack, it's still £23,000. So you really do get a lot for your money with IONIQ 5. Now, with these flappy paddles here, they can adjust the regenerative braking like we mentioned earlier. So that means that if I come off the accelerator now, the car will start slowing. Regen braking, is the abbreviation, is good for putting a little bit of charge back into the battery. So it's not the brakes that are slowing the car down, it's the motor. So when I come off to make the turning here, I'm not using the brakes, the car's just slowing by itself, and that puts a little bit of charge into the battery and prolongs the life of the brake pads. You'll find that most EVs don't really need their brake pads changing that often because it's the motor that does the majority of the slowing. It takes some getting used to, because you'll probably be used to switching between pedals to slow down, off the accelerator onto the brake, but with these it's just learning to feather that accelerator. So let's take out the Namsan, which is effectively an ultimate all-wheel drive. You might hear the occasional knock. That would just be our trig plate in the back, and probably put the parcel shelf on as well. So the all-wheel drive, it drives very much the same. Obviously, it'll be slightly heavier, quite a bit more powerful, as mentioned in the figures earlier. But from where I'm sitting at the minute, and there's not really much of a difference from what you can see. Yes, having the vision roof is quite nice, particularly with the black interior. It adds a little bit more light into the cabin. But on the whole, steering wheel's the same, what I'm seeing on the dashboard's the same, still got the same heads-up display. I can see it's 30, we're doing 18 miles an hour. All of that is pretty much standard. The biggest difference is, of course, the digital side mirrors. That's the only sort of main difference that take a little bit of getting used to from with the Namsan compared to an Ultimate or a Premium or an SE Connect. So they are very responsive. We have had an Audi e-tron 4-sprung with the digital mirrors, and they are much smaller screens built into the door cards. These ones, whilst they do protrude a little bit, they're not affecting, I can still put my arm up here, down here, I still use the door handle. They're not really affecting my usage of the vehicle. And they do provide a really nice clear picture, and they're a great size. It's slightly different in the sense of I'm so used to looking right to a mirror, I'm just sort of looking right and down or left and down to see what's down the side of me. You do also have with these is it comes up with a camera on the dashboard, which is for your blind spots. That will show you a low down look of the back wheel, depending on which side you're indicating on. But if we're on the bypass now, doing around 40, put the foot down, you do feel it's got a bit more grunt to it. It definitely picks up a little more than the Ultimate, not as much as the N. And if you haven't seen our videos of the IONIQ 5N, obviously do check them out. There'll be a pop-up banner somewhere on the screen above me, but have a look. We do take that out as well a couple of times. We put it up against the Porsche Taycan, so as I mentioned, So obviously have a look at those if you want to see what the IONIQ 5N is like. In terms of driving though, the Namsan and the Ultimate, the rear wheel drive versus the all wheel drive, because they're very similar on the inside and obviously the outside, the design, everything, we're sort of more just comparing the drive between these two, particularly as they are sort of more widely available models. Namsan's still limited edition, but there's certainly a few more of those in the market than there are the N. And of course the price. What you get with a Namsan is phenomenal value for money. Compared to the Ultimate, the Namsans will be a little bit more expensive with age and mileage, but it's still very good value for money. If you can get your head around these digital side mirrors, which to be fair I have, we've used this car on the motorway, it's absolutely fantastic. You know, it's fine, you get a nice view. When you indicate, it comes up with a red line and a yellow line. The red, orange line really. The red line basically saying the car next to you is too close, don't pull out. The yellow line shows you a sort of safe distance where you can pull out. So that is quite nice to have. The Audi didn't really have that with its digital mirrors, but on these, they're very good. In terms of adjusting them, for example, the Audi was all touchscreen, which is a bit fiddly. There's standard mirror controls just down by the window switches. You can easily just select which mirror to adjust and then move it around. So they're not fixed cameras, you do have movement with them to suit obviously your driving position. Through town now, very much the same as the Ultimate. Again, it's got a bit more power if I need it. It is obviously all-wheel drive, so it will have that poke, but in terms of the actual ride, the suspension's still smooth. It's still riding on the same 20-inch alloy wheels, so you're not going to notice much of a difference with that. Again, the size is the same. It is a very similar car, but obviously just slightly different in terms of its power. Likewise, the Namsan also has with the like the Ultimate is the adaptive cruise, which we didn't mention on the bypass, but it does the adaptive cruise and the lane keeping as well. Obviously there wasn't anything optional on these. You could have these Namsans with the lighter interior that you saw on the Ultimate. Likewise, you can have the Ultimate with the black interior as well, depending on what suits your needs. I personally don't mind the Namsan in black with the black interior with the Vision roof because it still feels nice and light. The black on the Ultimate can feel a little bit more less roomy, just because obviously you haven't got as much light coming in. Oh, there's a fellow Hyundai going past. The popular cars, these, but no, it's very similar to the Ultimate. You wouldn't necessarily notice much of a difference in driving between a rear-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive. Again, battery size between this and our Ultimate, whilst this one is a little bit bigger because it's a slightly later model, the range won't make much of a difference because of that extra motor. So it doesn't really make a massive difference which one you go for. I suppose it's personal preference. If you need all-wheel drive, go for the all-wheel drive. But if you're in a city, town, the weather in this country isn't usually bad enough to require having all-wheel drive, you'd easily get away with the rear-wheel drive. You're not going to lose any particular grip or traction compared to the all-wheel drive. So there's a bit of an overview of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. Now they do a lot more variations to this. They do the Premium and the SE Connect. They also did the very rare Project 45, which is a bit of a sort of a first edition run, which had a solar roof, so actual solar panels on the roof, which would charge the battery. So very unique. They sit just above the Ultimate, but not quite as high as the Namsan, in my opinion. But again, they're very similar between the Namsan and the Project 45. As you get a bit, you can see they are relatively similar. They have their similarities. The N obviously stands out massively compared to the other two, which is probably why it grabs so many media headlines. But we've obviously done a couple of videos on the N already, so I wanted to focus a little more on the other two because they're fantastic cars. They're great all-round EVs, decent range, practicality, the looks, they look fantastic, the build quality is great. So yes, fantastic cars. We've had a few. We'll always keep stocking these. We think they're excellent. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, let us know. If we get enough, we might do another video just on certain makes and types of the IONIQ 5. But also let us know which one you'd pick. Would you go for an Ultimate rear-wheel drive, sort of more that lower end price point, but plenty of tech kit for the money? Something a little bit more exclusive like the Namsan, or something completely crazy like the N? Thank you very much for watching. By all means, please do leave us a like a dislike if you didn't enjoy this. We've done a lot of Hyundai IONIQ 5 content recently, but we will be mixing it up with some stuff coming soon. So please do subscribe if you feel like it, comment, and that's it from me. We'll see you in the next video.